If you've been enjoying R4E, the Reason for Everything podcast, please be sure to like, follow, and subscribe on all platforms or wherever you get your podcasts.
I came across your content just being a big basketball fan and wanted to just hear more about your journey, man. It's been cool to, see where the last year has taken you, and talked to a lot of young entrepreneurs and founders and creators, and just cool to share notes on the journey. And I know a lot of people that are, in a boat like yours who are thinking about getting off the ground and looking for some inspiration. So I like to hopefully share that with them. So it's really the background of this, and we'd love to just learn more about you and your journey if that works for you.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you having me on here. Appreciate you reaching out. Love getting to talk to like-minded people, kind of about the business of being a creator. But yeah, I run an account called All Hail B-Ball. It actually started off as just me in my college dorm room making videos. They're silly conspiracy videos about the NBA. They're terrible. We've grown it now to a ton of different things. And recently gone full time into it and have been building out the business side of it, and just really excited for where 2024 is going to go.
I'm excited for you, man. I don't know about you. I mean, you said it there, but looking back at the old content, even looking back at my content sometimes from earlier that day or the day before, is sometimes just so cringe, and it's painful to look back on, but it's also kind of humbling and exciting to see how far we've grown,
Sorry, man. Yeah, definitely. It's I love going back and scrolling to the bottom of my feed and checking out the old stuff that I did just to see. Even like I go back to a video that I made last week and I'm like, damn, that kind of sucked. I could do way better than that now from what I know even now. So I love looking back and reflecting and just seeing how far the content's come.
It's piece by piece we're figuring it out here. There's no right way to do it. It's just as long as we're doing something, I feel like it's a step in the right direction. Now, getting up to speed on you and your life background, I know you played college sports. You're from Orlando, if I did my homework correctly, but I'd love to learn a little bit more about, your
Yes,
upbringing and the context that, got you to where you are today.
Yeah. Sports have been like a major part of my life as far as I can remember, actually. I started playing football when I was 5 years old, which is weird because I have a basketball account, but I did play high school basketball, played football, but football is my thing. I'm pretty dense, big, stocky guy. Not the basketball body you would imagine. But I played linebacker going into college and actually finished as a tight end. I played at Holy Cross up in Massachusetts. Yeah, I grew up in Orlando. It was great down there. Love Florida. And really, teaches you a lot playing in the Florida Heat in high school football. Level there is just it's a different beast down there. So that was awesome. But yeah, moved up to Massachusetts, got an economics degree at Holy Cross, and realized that the I guess you could say like corporate 9 to 5 econ path that I was going down, I was like, oh no, this is not going to be for me. I love to create, love to make things. I actually started by doing graphic design. During COVID, I had like a pretty decent following as like a graphic designer. I was working with a bunch of big sports leagues, a bunch of big athletes. I was big into the rap space for whatever reason, making album covers and stuff like that. But kind of realized that, obviously I want to be in sports, want to stay in sports. So I started posting videos, started making content online. I'd always been kind of good into editing, obviously with Photoshop is a different beast, but been into editing, learned After Effects when I was in like middle school, Premiere, and luckily that was useful at some point. My mom used to be like, why are you spending 8 hours a day on your computer when it was like during COVID, you get sent home. Listen, it's gonna happen one day. It's gonna work. I'm doing it for a reason. I swear I'm learning. I can make money on this. We ended up here. And this is what I do full time now. So hey, love it.
Now you're on a podcast talking about the content you create. You never know.
Yeah, man. It's great.
Let me ask this. So you're a pretty young guy. How old are you?
24.
24. It's so crazy. I mean, the creators I talk to who talk about, that the corporate 9 to 5 wasn't for me. I wonder how long it's going to be until we start talking to content creators that say like, hey, the content creation game for me, I really wanted to get into the 9 to 5 space. I feel like
I think it's soon.
It's crazy. At the same time, I feel like if you find the right niche, everyone has the right audience for them. But it's so funny talking to, I feel like everyone I speak with nowadays is like, yeah, like the 9 to 5 space isn't for me. That's why I got into content creation.
And it's such a myth that this isn't 9 to 5 if you're doing it right. Like it's probably like 7 to midnight. It's not. There's no hours. It's just all the time. Why am I awake? It's every waking hour that I have goes into it. Which like, oh, I don't want to be stuck in. It's way. People don't understand, the level and effort that goes into it, and the amount of hours and time it takes up during the day, especially if you're trying to make this a profitable company outside of just making cool content. But definitely worth it, just being able to be your own boss, and hey, you get to talk about basketball for a living. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I want to talk about that transition from football to basketball. Before we do, being a graphic designer, being an artsy guy isn't really the typical, stereotype of a college football player. How'd you kind of get into the graphic design space? Why was that the first kind of route you dove into out of college football?
Yeah, no, definitely definitely not a common mix. But in all honesty, I started to learn graphic design when I was a senior in high school because I wanted to make myself a commitment edit because I didn't want to pay for it when I graduated. Like I didn't want to have an editor I have to give like $10 to make a it sounds crazy when you think about it out loud, but
No,
I don't want to
it
give
makes sense.
$10 to somebody to make an edit about me. So I was like, well, I'll just learn it. And so now I've got good friends at Adobe. So if you're listening, close your ears. But I just pirated Photoshop off YouTube and found like a Reddit link, pirated it, and learned how to make designs. And then got obsessed. And I think I've used Photoshop every day since then. So it was all about that. And you know what? Never ended up making the commitment edit. I never ended up doing it because I was like, wow, this is really weird. As I was cutting myself out, I was like, I don't want to make this of myself. But great skill to have. Ended up making it for everybody else I know, and turn a little side gig while I was in college. Make some money on the
Did you charge people for
side.
that?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We started to. We were making a lot of money, but when you're in college, anything you can get your hands on, I'm all in.
It's so funny thinking back on how far a dollar went when we were in school. Just like what you needed to get us. We had a giant pizza place at school called Benny's, and it was like sliced like three. It was like 3 slices of pizza into one, and it was a $4 slice, and that was like the best thing ever. But it's funny to think about how important really making the dollar stretch in school.
Oh yeah. I was doing everything I could. Graphic design just happened to be the most fun.
It's pretty scrappy in nature, and to that end, you started off. Did you start off working at like a graphic design agency, or what was the first gig out of school?
Everything was completely self-taught that I have. Editing, graphic design. I would spend like hours watching YouTube videos. I never took one course, class, anything on editing, whatever, graphic design. It was all strictly like through YouTube and like hours and hours a day just trying to figure out what it could look like, how I could do this, how I could do that. And my favorite thing to do is I used to just find designs that I really, really liked online. Like I go on Twitter, I'd be like, oh, this designer, this is so sick. And I would just try to remake it. And I would do that for hours. Like, oh, how do they get the lighting to look like this? How do, it really helps you understand dimensions, lighting, stuff like that. And, once you can utilize the tools in Photoshop, you can really do anything. And it kind of crosses over the Adobe platforms into Premiere. Once you kind of understand what a good piece of art, a good piece of content looks like, I personally think you can kind of take that and use your analytic mind to whatever, formula or editing style you need to create. If you have the tools to do it, opportunities are endless. So yeah, it was all kind of self-taught, and then led to a profession out of college. I got a job at a sports marketing agency right out of college as their lead graphic designer. And within a few months, that turned into the head director of content at a sports marketing NIL agency.
And that was Jaster, is that right?
Yeah, Jaster.
Okay. And what was that experience like? That was a pretty, exciting time in the realm of college sports NIL. What was that experience like for you?
Yeah, Jaster was like the best possible thing ever for me. Our CEO, Jordan Rooney, I actually just had my last day there January 1st, obviously, because All Hail Bebo turned into such a massive piece of my life that I had to step away and do that full time. But loved everything I learned there. Jordan Rooney, our CEO, is incredible at what he does. He gave me a ton of trust. I actually was literally just doing graphic design intern for like nothing. I'd shot him a DM when I was a senior in college and was like, hey, here's what I could do for you. Just started making things for free, which goes a long way. A lot of people, expect to get paid the big bucks right away, but I was just doing it because, it's like this could potentially lead to something. So as I graduated, he brought me out to Pittsburgh, PA, which is where their office was located. And, built some trust. Within a few months, I was the director of content. So pretty much oversaw the operation of everything that we did content wise, with all of our athletes. Had a big NIL roster. But it was madness. We represent DeMar, not we anymore. I don't work there, but they represent DeMar Hamlin. So as that whole situation progressed, we were at the forefront of probably the wildest marketing story you could have ever in sports. And trying to figure that out as a small startup agency with a team of like 6 people who are all like under 30, it was madness, but it was so exciting. And we learned so much over those few years that, now I can, confidently say like, oh, I can go do this on my own and figure out what, my pages look like, because know how to build a brand. We did it, lived it, got thrown in the fire and came out. So it's awesome.
Too cool. Now, at what point while you were at Jasper were you getting All Hail Basketball started? Like, what was the timeline inflection point like for you there?
Yeah, it was the entire time I was there. I started All Hail B-Ball January of 2022. That was when it was in its infancy. That was when I first started making posts. That was when I was a senior in college. I started Jasper July of 2022. So I started All Hail B-Ball first. And so the crossover was kind of the entire time. Jordan was our CEO. And I think this is, how I'm going to operate my business is like help you with whatever you need to achieve your goals, learn as much as you can, help us as much as you can, make it mutually beneficial. So they were, pretty lenient on letting me go and do my thing, figure out what I needed to do. And so I made a post every day for the next year on TikTok and Instagram until I found what I wanted to make. We haven't stopped posting since. So it was a ton of work, but we made it happen.
I've been a huge proponent about, just getting content out there. It's part of the reason why I started this podcast. Was like, I've worked on a couple of different business ventures, wasn't quite sure really what I wanted to do with those. And, making a podcast was, an easy thing to hold myself accountable to just, get on the microphone, have a conversation with someone, and you never know where it's going to lead. And to that end, like I'm still trying to figure that out, but this is a kind of ways to a means to an end sort of thing where I'm not quite sure where it's going to take me. But, in the process, having cool conversations, the wheels start to turn, pieces start to come together. While you were, putting those initial pieces of content out, trying to figure out what you wanted to do, what else was there ever like a avenue where you're going to be doing, all hail football or golf or any other sport, or were you basketball from the start?
Basketball was from the start, mainly because they don't wear helmets, one. So when I was first talking, I don't talk about the NBA as much anymore. When I was solely talking about the NBA, they didn't have helmets on. So the drama is through the roof. The NFL's got great drama. Stories are a little bit harder to come by. So it started out originally as basketball. I actually have a Snapchat show called Foul Play. And it is strictly about the NFL. Obviously playing football. I love football. I love the NFL. Huge Dolphins fan, which sucks, but whatever.
I was gonna ask you sport.
Yeah, I have a show there. Yeah, the Dolphins. It's a horrible life. And if you want to hear all about me complaining, go watch Foul Play. I post there almost every day. And over this season, it's at around 150,000 subscribers on Snap, which is just unreal for the Discover page. It's been booming the past few months, so it's been super fun. I pretty much talk all things football, all things NFL, all things that are happening. Like, and it's called Foul Play because I talk about the foul things. Like maybe some refs are screwing up some games. Maybe the Dolphins do suck. I don't know. Go check it out on my page and see if they do. But that's kind of the aspect of the page. But yeah, so it's been football. It's been mostly basketball. Now it's kind of gearing majority towards high school basketball for All Hail B-Ball. That's where All Hail B-Ball will be pretty much solely high school basketball coming up, and we can talk about that. But then I have just launched the past 2 weeks 2 full-length YouTube channels. One titled Foul Play again, and that's my full-length NFL football-oriented page. Just posted a video about Tua Tagovailoa, Tyreek Hill. We got one up about Lamar Jackson and his MVP race. And then I have a basketball version of that where I do long-form storytelling for basketball that we launched last week. There's a video about Bryce James and Chet up there already. So those are my big 2024 projects, is long-form content on YouTube. Those videos have been super fun to make. I love telling stories. So if you're watching the All Hail B-Ball channel and you're like, oh, wow, he's not telling as many of these like crazy conspiracy stories. Oh, they're still there. They're just 12 minutes now on YouTube. So get some more bang for your buck.
I want to double click on a lot of that because it's super interesting. Let's start with the Snapchat show, Foul Play. The Foul Play, you said?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How'd you even get that started? What does that look like? Everyone has their, you see your friends' stories and it's the random discover things and the algorithm tries to figure out what's going to catch your eye. But how did you even go about getting a Snapchat show?
Yeah, so Snap shows are like really hard to come by. It's kind of an invite-based thing. So how it works, I guess you got to understand how it works first before I say how I got into it. But it has so when Snap first implemented the Discover page, they wanted to pay creators to come on and make like shows. And I think like Yes Theory was the first big creator group that was on there. But anyway, they partnered with a bunch of different production companies, and those production companies were able to facilitate shows. So they had, a very limited amount. I think like a company called Vertical Networks was like one of the first ones. They were on there. And then now it's expanded. There's a bunch of production companies. And one of my good friends here in Pittsburgh, his name's Frank Michael Smith. He's got a big TikTok page, Instagram. He's an amazing creator, better businessman. He's got a company called Juice Productions that got to be a Snap partner. So Frank was, a great help getting me plugged in with some people who could help me get a show. He actually reached out before I moved here and met him. It was a whole weird thing, but great dude, helped me out, and he's been helping me run it ever since. So yeah, it's kind of a long, complicated process. Like it's not something you just start posting and you're there. You gotta have some sort of end to it. But yeah, he helped me get in, and it's been incredible.
Too cool. And now your Snapchat Snap show's going off. Your Instagram channels are going. Now you have your YouTube channels. What was the maybe video you made or video that went viral on the initial All Hail page that you're like, hey, I'm gonna really stick to basketball here and then diversify my other channels? Like, what was that inflection point like for you?
Yeah, so I used to make these dumb little videos where I would like, not dumb because they're good, but I pretty much repost interview clips and like have like a 2-second clip of me in the front, like pointing up to a title, and then like the AI voice would read it and then it would play. Oh, Kobe Bryant talking about how to be good at basketball, and then here comes Kobe talking. So I realized, obviously, as most creators grow, that's not a great video. It wasn't much effort, definitely informative. And the person who did the interview did a great job, but I was just stealing their clips. And at that point, there's no creativity fund, so you weren't really making any money. So I'm like, all right, how do we really do this? Because I was like, all right, I really want to do this. This is my thing. So I started talking, got in front of the camera and making videos about crazy NBA stories. And the first big video that popped off for me was I made a conspiracy theory. I don't make as many conspiracies now, but if you want to see them, Foul Play is where it is. But I used to make a ton of weird NBA conspiracy theories. Made one about Jimmy Butler being Michael Jordan's son. Did like a crazy amount of research, found like all these weird little facts and tidbits. It took me a while to write because I wasn't just reproducing this theory. The theory had been around, but I found like a bunch more strange connection evidence with his parent. It was a whole thing. Posted it. Video was decently edited, like wasn't very confident on the camera yet. You could tell I sound a little bit different. I look a little bit different. But it was like probably the second or third video I had made when I was like speaking into the camera. And that video still is probably my highest viewed video to date. I think it has close to 10 or over 10 million views on TikTok, 8 or 9 million on Instagram, and on YouTube it did another probably 5 or 6 million. So yeah, that was when I was like, all right, yeah, basketball. We're gonna talk about that a little bit. We could talk about it a lot.
I remember seeing that video initially way back when, before I even knew who you were, and we were all freaking out about it. And I saw people pulling from that on Twitter.
Yeah, I got quoted everywhere.
I know. I saw it was all over, man.
Yeah, it was nuts. And the craziest part is, life is all about timing. Jimmy Butler that night, I posted that video probably at 6. At 9, he had like 50 points in the playoffs. So everyone was like, oh my God, Jimmy Butler, his name, it's coming up, MJ, blah, blah, blah. He plays the same. All of a sudden, everybody and their mom is looking at my video. It all was just perfect timing at the end of the day. So sometimes things just happen like that.
That's how it goes. That's awesome. And then from there, let me ask you this. Were you ever worried that like Jimmy Butler or Michael. I guess obviously it's, it's a good problem to have, having, Michael Jordan, someone reach out to you, but like these are people that, could get upset about some of these conspiracy theories. Is that ever a worry in the back of your head, or is it now when you're doing conspiracies on foul play?
Oh yeah. Now I got to kind of tone it back because I work with a lot of these guys now. I work with a lot of athletes. Do a bunch of stuff with different NBA players, especially high school guys. So now, yeah, I've realized as an adult, I will say it's probably not the best to start spreading rumors online about. Even though I did say it was conspiracy, I want to put that out there. I said conspiracy first. Anyway, spreading rumors online about these guys who, they're just people. At the end of the day, they're scrolling Instagram too. Probably not the best look. So yeah, it was worrisome, but like, it's all for the fun of it. Like I would never ever make a video spreading something that's like harmful to somebody's reputation. If I still do a lot of reporting, if I'm reporting on like, for example, there was that Texas Tech player who got in trouble for some allegations a few weeks ago, and I made a video about it. Very clearly stated over and over in the video, these are allegations that have not been proven true. Like more so going for that, unbiased news approach if I'm reporting on something like that, rather than, oh, this is so fact, I think it is, stating my opinion. I'd rather just, present the facts, let you believe what you believe. But yeah, no, definitely as I start to work and meet a lot of these guys, I'm like, all right, we're going to tone that back.
Now, what do you mean by work and meeting these guys? Are you, making clips for them? What do you mean by that?
More so when I was at the agency, I worked with a lot of big time athletes, got to meet them all, especially throughout the situation with DeMar. But just been put in contact with a lot of these guys, and then now through All Hail B-Ball, there's a lot of opportunity. I've got a couple brand deals that we've been working on behind the scenes, with some different athletes, and then just trying to work with these leagues. Like we're working on different partnerships with the NBA to be able to come out to different events and do here and there. And if you're constantly slandering the NBA, that doesn't tend to bode well if you want to be someone who gets invited to these and to be able to cover real life sporting events. So that's kind of where I mean, not like I'm every day hanging out with like the Joker, but we get some opportunities to cross paths with a lot of these guys and make some content about them and make some content for them. So
gotcha.
That's kind of what I mean.
Yeah, I hear you. Super cool. And so you had that video of Jimmy blow up. You continue to build some NBA videos. At what point did you pivot to high school basketball, and why high school basketball?
Yeah, so that was, honestly pretty recent. I still will talk about the NBA here and there. I make a video every single day. Right now we're going for 2 a day. So there is like, obviously you got to, if you're talking that much, talk about what's going on. But the main focus is going to be high school basketball. And that's pretty much because over the summer I had put together an AAU team in 2 weeks of 4 and 5 star. Actually, this wasn't 5. So these were all 4-star and lower kids from the area. And we went and competed against another YouTuber, Cam Wilder, at a big basketball tournament. And I had this stacked house team, and then he brought another stacked team. They had 6 kids in the top 10 in the country for the class of 2024. And we went toe to toe. And I quickly realized at that event, high school basketball is a space that there isn't as much coverage. Obviously as the NBA, you're not playing, small fish in a big pond. Like you can, like my guys at Strictly B-Ball, they're crushing it in high school basketball. And when I made this AAU team, we had, I think, 15,000 kids at this one game that we were playing with these 16 to 18-year-olds that I brought in a big van, and we stayed in like this giant farmhouse. And I made a vlog about it, which was one of the most fun things I've ever made. And the videos, they crushed. Like they did so well. People were so engaged. But the part where I was really like, oh, I want to double down on this and do this big time was that like in-person atmosphere was, we're walking in and kids, like this is the audience in person. Like they know exactly what we're doing. Having kids run up to you and be like, oh, hail. Like, this is awesome. Let me play. Like, let me be on the team. Let me be your Nelson. Let me do this. Let me do that. Kids, seeing that community be built. Like we hosted a tryout and had 1,500 kids sign up for it. Like it was one of the biggest things I've done, and realized that, those in-person events are so much more impactful and so much more important. And then for the kids that were on the team, I bring this up a ton. Like this one kid, Virgil, he was Virgil Hall, a kid from Pittsburgh who I got put onto and ended up bringing out. One of the nicest dudes I've ever met. One of the toughest stories in basketball, probably. Like he was homeless growing up, has made it out all by himself, like was in halfway houses. And, I brought him out there and, I told all these kids like the importance of posting and building a brand. And Virgil, he's been one that has obviously like when you come from a start like that, you realize, that like you got to do certain things. You got to, be able to put on for yourself. Verge realized that quickly. And, him and I have talked probably every week since then about building his brand and how he can do this and that. He's gained like over 50,000 followers since that tournament. So, and a bunch of the other kids, like such great dudes on that team, and watching a lot of them get some big time offers from the exposure. Now playing college basketball because they got to step on the court with us. The brands that have reached out, like really, it's the viewership's great. The in-person events are fun. And you feel like a celebrity at these things, like because everyone is there to watch your team. But at the end of the day, it's like all that's fun and all that's awesome in the moment, but the impact that you get to see of a 16 to 18-year-old kid being able to help go into their life and push them in the right direction and kind of give them a platform and an impact is where I'd way rather lived is like how many lives can we change in a matter of I'm not just spreading rumors about Jimmy Butler on the internet. We are doing something that's fulfilling. We're helping these kids get to a better spot, help these kids change their lives, their family lives, and their family in the future's lives because of this. So that's been like 100 times more fulfilling. So now it's all about how can we convert that to the audience base and make sure that they feel the same way and are engaged in the content. So it's a lot of reporting about high school basketball, stories about these kids, and kind of finding the diamonds in the rough and helping them succeed. So I actually have some huge news dropping on next Wednesday about it, January 30th, or January 31st. Some crazy news about AAU coming, but it's going to be dope.
That's awesome, man. To layman's that for anyone who is listening that maybe wasn't fully following, AAU's a travel basketball league for juniors, and Cullen put together a team of the best AAU players, that 4-star recruits against another big content creators, draft team, all-star style team, and they played against each other. Brought out a bunch of other high schoolers in support. You said 15,000 people came into support. Is that right? Something like that?
Yeah, I think that was the tournament attendance.
Crazy, absolutely. And then from there, helped put some of these people on the radar, help them build their personal brands. It's almost like a business within a business now for you, where you're not only putting this content together, but you're also helping these people craft their personal brands and be more marketable. Especially to your point, in some situations where someone might not have that role model figure, mentor in their lives.
Yeah, no, it's a crazy world. High school basketball can be, and high school sports in general, even college sports now, can be like such a wild roller coaster. A lot of these kids just have no direction. I mean, I remember when I was being recruited and going to college, it was just me and my dad. Like, we didn't know what the hell we were doing. I was getting all these offers from schools and promises and things that made no sense to me as a 17-year-old. I'm like, what? How do I determine what this is? So a lot of these guys, it's really just having a voice, having a guide, and having somebody using my platform. It's great, for my own gain to build this brand, build this audience, and eventually be able to do something big with it. But I think the big thing is being able to help as many high school basketball players, and then hopefully broaden out to other sports and kind of move along in that sense. So I think that's where the bigger opportunity comes is an impact rather than like how many views you can get.
So awesome, man. So awesome. Now, how do you balance your time in terms of, you're trying to get right now 2 pieces of content out a day. You got that big announcement for AAU that's coming out next week, which will probably be out by the time this drops. You've got your Snap show. You've got 2 YouTube channels. How are you balancing your time, getting out regular content, sticking to your schedule? What does that look like for you?
Oh yeah, it's a lot. Don't get me wrong. It's a lot. I think football taught is a very valuable skill from an early age of being able to schedule, being able to be self-disciplined in what you need to do. So I try to keep a very routine schedule right now, to where I'm waking up, first thing, focus is on Snap, and compartmentalize, like, all right, how can I get the Snap show better? Then immediately go into the first TikTok of the day. All right, what are we talking about? Usually it's high school basketball or NBA, whatever that clip moment is. How are we figuring that out? And then the next few hours I'll spend it on YouTube, figuring out thumbnails, figuring out really those channels are more so. So when we start vlogging this AAU stuff, I have an understanding of the YouTube algorithm and how it works. Obviously, I love writing stories, so it's a bonus that I get to write these cool stories and post about them. But it's really like, okay, how does this work? How do thumbnails work? What do we need to see? How does a script work for this? What's an intro, a hook? So that's really where like the analyzation comes into play. And then on the back half of the day, you know, that's where my like trying to build some influence comes. I call it when I go in. The second video of my day is not usually basketball related. At this point, it's more so like I had these custom shoes made the other day by an artist that we made a video with. I make these weird art pieces behind me everywhere. We did a series on TikTok where I think it got like 5 million views, where I put a sign up in my window asking for my neighbor's gamer tag. Like, that's when I get to do all the fun stuff on the back end of the day. So it's work hard in the morning, make sure everything's organized. With this AU stuff, that will become more of the primary focus, which we could talk about. I don't think it's really, it's not like I'm hiding anything.
This won't be watching for a bit. Yeah. Well, if it's up to you
But
entirely,
yeah,
I can cut it if I need to.
Yeah, no, it's a lot, but yeah, that's kind of the process.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, if you want to dive into the AAU stuff, great. Otherwise, have you back on once that's launched and ready to go. Hopefully, maybe we can do it in person sometime soon too. But yeah, if you want to dive into that, feel free. Otherwise, I'd love to hear more about, you know, actually building that business and brand and what, you know, the future of AH holds.
Yeah, definitely. So it's kind of, I guess I can kind of go through it with the AAU stuff to that question. So once we saw that impact, I say it's just me, but I say we because I feel like
in the business right now. Is that right?
I have a bunch of editors, but they're overseas, so it's really just me. I've got a buddy who like helps me bounce ideas off and whatnot, but for the most part, it's just solely me, which is changing. Part of the AU. So we saw, you know, this was epic. This was so fun. And Cam Wilder, for those who don't know, is a massive YouTuber. He did an amazing thing over the summer where he turned this AU team into one of the biggest shows on YouTube. Changed a ton of kids' lives. I mean, kids were getting millions of followers off of this series. Millions. Like the Newman family, all the kids in their family gained like over 1 million followers on Instagram. Like it's nuts, the impact that this had. So I was like, all right, you know, he did it in a way to where he has a team now in the Overtime Basketball League, OTE, called Rod Wave Elite. They're a full-time team there, which was incredible. Obviously, my team was one weekend. He did the entire summer, gained millions of views. All right, I this wasn't as big as what he did, but I felt like this was something. This was something there for me. So how can I take that and turn this into something longer? It's not just, you know, a one-off tournament over the summer with a bunch of kids that I fly out. How can we do this right? How can we make this an opportunity? So I saw thousands and thousands of DMs, like to the point where my phone was crashing because of them. Kids asking to be on this team, kids asking to be a part of it. So I was like, I can't personally have more than one team. And I played college football. I don't know X's and O's of basketball. If I'm doing this, I want these kids to have some sort of benefit, like they learn something at least, or they get better. I can help them build their brand, but you know, at a scale, you can't really do that. So there's a local AU program here called Wildcat Select. And without getting too much into what AU is, the landscape is so complicated. There are pretty much, you could probably say 4 base tournaments, or they call circuits, that are like long-standing teams that have been around for 10 plus years that get on these circuits. You know, you spend years and years trying to get your team on this circuit, and they're run by Nike, Adidas, Under Armour, and there's a few other ones. But the Nike and Adidas ones, they're the 2 biggest. So if my thought process after this all was, I should make an entire program for these kids, have coaches K through 12 playing like AU, like turn this into a Team All Hail Real program. Then I shortly realized I don't know anything about basketball, and that would be a terrible idea because, well, how would I do that? I don't know how to do that. So I reached out to the local AAU team here. I say local, that kind of undersells them. They're a very elite team. It's very hard to get on an Adidas or a Nike circuit, and they are on the Adidas circuit. So how that works is they have pretty much like 4 tournaments that they play a year, and Adidas, like, you know, funds their travel and whatnot to play in the Adidas tournaments and bring out some of the best kids in the country. And that's region based. So they have kids from PA. I'm in Pittsburgh, so PA and the neighboring states. So reach out to them, and we're going to, I think it's the first people to ever do it, but combine forces to where their Wildcat Select team will be branded as Team All Hail. can't change the Wildcat name because they have their Adidas contract, but at least for these first couple of years, it'll be Team All Hail and Wildcat Select, kind of coexisting. And we will play those 4 tournaments that they have with our local roster, we call it here. So we'll have 3 Team Elite or Team All Hail elite teams that will be playing on a Adidas circuit, and we're recruiting some of the best players in the country for that using the content. And then we'll have 20 other teams that are already existing in Pittsburgh under Wildcat Select, and we'll have almost a reality show based around this entire AU program. There'll be cameras, producers, and everything will be recorded for YouTube, chopped up, and have a ton of content from the AU team. So you could think of it as what OTE did in overtime, if you know anything about that, and making this high school basketball team feel like they're an NBA team with the content and everything. And then the fun part of it is I get to then take some of the best performers from our local rosters here and put them alongside some of the top rated kids in the country for these tournaments that are off circuit. So we'll probably do 5 or 6 off circuit tournaments. I'll fly out probably 5 or 6 4 and 5-star kids each weekend, and hopefully some different kids from around the country get the opportunity to come out and play, and we will put them alongside our kids, continue to vlog it, so have almost like a show team where we kind of inject our guys into it to make sure that these kids who didn't have the exposure before are now playing alongside the best players in the country. And then hopefully we'll be able to go rematch Cam Wilder's team and take them down with a full-fledged program. So you'll see the All Hail and Adidas basketball team coming very soon.
That is so cool, man. Good for you. That's super, super exciting.
Thank you. Yeah, it's dope. So the business aspect of it, to your question, is a lot goes into this AU program. If you want to look more into an AU business, I still don't fully understand it. I'm trying to figure it out. That is that. And then I have my actual content side, which is All Hail B-Ball. Obviously, you get AdSense from TikTok right now. Hopefully, the 2 YouTube channels over the next few months. One of them's already monetized after only 3 videos, which is great. And then the second one we're working on now. So AdSense there. Then All Hail B-Ball, I have a few different recurring brand deals. Sorry, that a couple of them are set up on like a consulting basis, which I think is super cool for creators. Not a lot of people do that, where instead of just making a video, like you're working with their team to help understand what creators think. More companies should think like that. I'm not going to name drop the company who I'm doing it for, but more companies should think like that, getting creators in building and helping out. So there's a few other random one-off things that we do here and there, but yeah, man, a lot of stuff.
That's dope, man. Good for you. And so cool that like a brainchild that you guys came up with is seeing the light of day and going to be just a monster this year. That's really, really cool.
Yeah, no, I'm super excited. It's going to be epic. Looking to hire some full-time videographers, editors right now that are here in Pittsburgh, and looking to build out, a small team here and hopefully make it into something massive. This is the first kind of time we've talked about it out loud here, but it's going to be dope.
That's super cool, man. Now thinking, as we round out here, long-term, you've always got a lot on your plate for this year, and, sky's the limit for where some of this stuff takes you. But for you personally, in an ideal world, what's the next couple of years hold for you building these platforms further? Like what would be the ideal kind of end destination for, what this platform, shakes out like for you?
Yeah, that's a tough question. I know like for a lot of creators, like it's super, super helpful to set an end goal and fight to reach that. Have a determined path. My biggest problem in our business is that my end goal changes like every 2 days. I'm like, oh, well, what if I do this? Oh, I could be a ESPN talking head. I could do this. But over the past few months, I've realized that I think the end goal is long form content. I love making these short forms, TikToks and stuff like that. Long form is the more fulfilling, fun, and you build a better community. So would love to have, my YouTube channels be something that is, taking up most of the days, and have the Team All Hail be a legitimate force in the AU world, to where the top players in the country want to make sure that they come through here to be able to not only grow their brand, build out some recognition based on that, but also they get elite basketball training, they get elite knowledge, and they come out, it could be a kid that didn't have any stars coming in here. We find them, bring them in, get them on the right circuit in front of the right people, next to the right players, and all of a sudden this kid went from nothing to being a top-ranked player in the country. we have our eyes set on a kid right now that we're about to do it with. So we'll see if come back in a year to see if the case study worked. But I think we've got a pretty good plan for it.
I'm fired up for you, man. I'm excited to tune in and watch. For those of my audience who weren't familiar with you before and want to tap in, figure out, what all you're putting together here, what's the best place for them to find you, get in touch with you? What's the kind of call to action channel for you?
Yeah, just my All Hail B-Ball Instagram is where I'm the most active in the DMs. Post every day there. My All Hail B-Ball TikTok will always kind of turn into more of just like my personal thoughts and diary at this point. I just make videos about whatever I'm doing. But yeah, the All Hail B-Ball Instagram will have everything that I'm doing at all times.
Fire, man. Well, look, really appreciate you hopping on today and excited to see what this year and beyond hold for you.
Yes, sir, man. I appreciate you having me.